Take 3. Hello. I got an email from somebody in the wake of the video I did about the bullying of Fahrenheit 211. And this chap sent me a similarly horrifying story. I can't be specific about it because he asked me not to be. And so the letter he wrote, I'm not going to put that in front of you, which is a shame because it tells you a lot about this poor fellow. But I understand his nervousness. But I can tell you some general things about him. And the first is that he has Asperger's. And he tells me that from his writing style, I believe that he does have some processing difficulties. It's a bit difficult to fake them in a letter as long as the one he sent me. You slip up from time to time if you have sort of a normal educational ability, and he didn't slip up once. So either this is somebody who's very, very, very clever, or somebody who has Asperger's. I'm going for the second there. And maybe a couple of other processing difficulties as well. He's in his 30s, but the whole style of the letter was like somebody in his late teens or early 20s. And the interesting thing is, he is by no means stupid. There's a good intelligence in there. The problem is processing. And it shows up in general to the outside world until you see what I saw in the letter, this intelligence coming through. But to most people, he would look maybe a bit thick, but he isn't. However, he does have some characteristics that would be more common to a teenager than a man in his 30s. Well, that happens with anyone on the autism spectrum because it takes them longer to mature. And I could also tell you he is of a sort of mixed race. So not the white supremacist that is being shoved on him by the police. Because what happened was, after a particularly nasty incident where a church was burnt down, he wrote something on a Facebook page to the effect that Muslims should get a dose of their own medicine, and then he just said that, and then he forgot about it. Several months later, the police barged into his house, took all his computing equipment, and just everything electronic he had: his phone, his tablet, his computer. And they hauled him to the police station and started asking him questions. Now, unless I've got it wrong here, this guy is not the spearhead of some sort of a Nazi paramilitary group who's going around beating up Muslims. It appears to me, and I might be wrong here, that he simply made a comment on a Facebook page and somebody in the police saw it months later and they decided to haul him in. They didn't even give him a chance to get dressed. They just ran into his room and cuffed him, and it was first thing in the morning and he was in a state of semi-undress. I don't know if they allowed him to get his kecks on before they took him to the station, but certainly they stood around while he was in a state of embarrassment and vulnerability, and I suspect that was quite deliberate on the part of the police. It's a good way of softening somebody up. This guy made a crucial mistake. He went to the police station with them. because he's not a bad guy. He cooperated with them. He didn't ask for a lawyer. And so they had fun with him. One of the police said to him, now, hang on. They asked him about an incident in which now how am I going to put this? They asked him about an incident in which a white supremacist killed people in some sort of, I don't know what goes through the minds of these white supremacists, but they asked him about this and asked him whether he was glad about it. And this guy was horrified. Now, this is, just go off at a tangent for a minute. He made an intemperate comment on a Facebook page. It wasn't a whole plan or it wasn't a long thing. It was a simple sentence about them getting a dose of their own medicine. And it was the sort of thing you say when you're very angry. And then they tried to draw it in with this white supremacist murdering, shooting up entire groups of people whom he saw as the other. I'm sorry I'm being so vague, but this poor fellow is very frightened now, so I have to be really careful. And one of the policemen said to him, now remember, this guy, I'd say, is sort of childish, innocent, childish, innocent in a childish way, in many ways, because of his condition. And one of the policemen said to him, what if somebody had acted on what you said? You said this. What if somebody, that they get a dose of their own medicine? What if somebody had acted on that? You'd be guilty. What? I bet that policeman really enjoyed bullying that kid. It should have been obvious to anyone that look, even somebody of normal and, normal intelligence is allowed to say angry words when they see something bad happening. If I tell somebody to go get fucked and then she embarks on a career of prostitution, is that my fault? This is just unbelievable. He made one comment on a Facebook page and they go into his house. They handcuff him while he's in a state of undress. They haul him down to the police station and then they start grilling him and telling him that a couple of stray words and he's going to set the world on fire. And he's responsible for setting the world on fire. It's absolute madness. Now this poor fellow is terrified. Now, when I said he's childish and innocent, I can prove that in the fact that he said he hadn't done anything wrong to the police and he didn't need a lawyer. Well, that's the sort of thing a naive innocent would do, isn't it? And the police look forward to something like that because it's so easy for them. So this fellow listed all the things that he knows Muslims have done wrong in this country. By Muslims doing wrong, I'm talking about Muslims doing wrong in the light of their religion. That their religion tells them, I mean, if they choose to interpret it that way, that their religion tells them they can do, for instance, like taking sex slaves. And he has a good grasp of that. That's why I said there's an intelligence in there. It's just a shame I think if you can say anything about this guy's case, it's probably that the state has failed him in his educational development, because as far as I can make out, he doesn't have a steady job. And I think he could have probably made more of himself if he'd been given more of a chance. But it doesn't look like, it seems like his family's rather naive as well, because they didn't demand a lawyer when he was arrested. Leaving aside this or other case of police bullying, of police going after a stray comment, instead of looking for, well, as lots of people have commented, knife crime and drug crime and grooming crime and all the rest of it. I do want to point something out, though. This chap made an intemperate comment, and when he saw other situations in which Muslims were being victimised, he was horrified. He couldn't live with the thought of people, women and children and old men being killed. And I just want to point this out, because there are many people putting comments under my videos when I talk about something, and they say, oh, kill them all, throw them all out, that sort of thing. But you know what? If you actually saw that happening, you wouldn't like it. As a nation, there is no... with human beings, there are never any easy answers. Never. There are never any easy solutions to anything. So you have to be more careful. You can make intemperate comments, but they will never work. They won't work because people won't stand for seeing the victimisation of children. When your religion tells you it's all right because this is ushering in the great and brave new world, and Jeremy Corbyn's doing that right now, when you're allowed to do anything because what you're doing is in the service of a higher good, people will do evil things. But there are decreasing numbers of people who will fall for that. And most of the people who watch my videos wouldn't fall for that. And so you'll make this comment like, throw them all out. But if you actually saw the hopeless lines of dispirited men and crying children and weeping mothers making their way towards the boats you're expelling them on, you wouldn't like that. You have to think things through. You have to think of ways of doing things that fit your morality. And I don't believe that most of the people watching these videos have the sort of morality that could stand for shooting innocent bystanders and throwing away refugees, because they will be refugees if you do that. So make as many intemperate comments as you want, but don't think that those are going to be the answer. I'm really sorry for this guy, and I'm sorry I can't give you more details. Is there anything else I can say about his... Yeah, and you know how the apostate prophet says, stay away from Islam, nearly at the end of nearly all of his videos. Well, I want to tell you, if you get picked up by the police, do not say anything. And yes, you always need a lawyer, however innocent you are. Because... Now, I'm going to go off at another tangent just for a moment. I'm sorry, but it is, 5:20 in the morning now. You've got to a certain extent, understand the police. I'm quite sure many of them are very, very frustrated by what's going on. And what happens, they are not allowed to do their job, so they start just lashing out, so they feel like they're doing a job. I'm quite sure that's part of what's going on with the police, and that's coming from the top, not the ordinary coppers on the beat, the ones who are bullying mentally handicapped people for making intemperate comments on Facebook. All right, this video's all over the place, but I did want to tell you about this because you should know that what happened to Fahrenheit 211 isn't the only instance. It's happening all the time, all over the place. It's not helping the police. They may get this temporary fix of thinking they've done something, but what they're doing is telling people like me not to have anything to do with them, not to step forward as a witness. You never know what they're going to do to you, do you? And the police cannot, if anyone in the police is watching this, I want to remind you, you cannot do your job without the cooperation of the people. If you don't have the cooperation of the people, you are a militia. And you find that in, South American countries rather a lot. And nobody cooperates. And you can't do your job. You need those witnesses. You need those people to back you up. You need those people to help you. You need those people to assist you in many ways. But you are losing the sympathy of the people. And we could make all the movies and TV series that we want, showing how intellectual and clever and public spirited the police are. But everyone knows you're not Inspector Morse, you're just a guy doing a job. And you need our help to do it. And you're not helping yourselves by going after ordinary citizens. Now, if you thought this guy was, if you wanted to find out, you could just ask him to come in and just talk to him about this. You don't have to barge into his house with a set of handcuffs, do you? As I say, this is probably all coming from the top, isn't it? Cheers. I'm adding this because an awful thought just occurred to me. I've just related the case of a mentally disabled young man who was being bullied by the police. Last video I made, it was of a Jewish man who was being bullied by the police. And when I was just about to finalise this video, the two ideas just drew together in my mind and I thought of something. Germany in the 1930s started its slide to barbarism, not all in a great big avalanche of evil, but bit by bit, in small increments, until it built up into a horror almost beyond description. But it started with the victimisation of mentally disabled people and Jews. That's quite a chilling thought, isn't it? If you want to donate or contact, the information will be rolling over the Graniopteryx as I speak. Please like, subscribe and share because it does help with the algorithm. If you visit my channel on YouTube and one day discover that I've disappeared without warning, you'll still find me on BitChute or Minds. Just go to either of those platforms and do a search for Graniopteryx. If you're already watching this on BitChute or Minds, good for you. Meanwhile, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember that you must keep checking the subscribe and bell icons because occasionally they reset. Till next time.